Welcome to Work It Out with TeKay Brown Taylor. She's an HR powerhouse and certified mediator in the CSRA. Conflict is everywhere, in our homes, our day-to-day transactions, and especially in the workplace, where good HR processes and policies can fall short. Save time, save money. Don't rush to litigate, mediate. Visit brownsstonemediation.com. Now here's TeKay and Neil.
Well, today we want to work it out HR style for our companies with TeKay Brown Taylor of Brownstone Media. I'm Neil Gordon, and welcome back.
Thank you. So glad to be here, Neil.
Absolutely, and so much of your background has been in, I guess it's called human resources, but you coined it a little bit of another name.
Human relations.
Human
That's correct.
relations. So the relationship.
The relationship.
Yeah.
You got it.
Sometimes the relationship has to get cut.
Yes.
So we're actually going to start at the end of the work relationship, and we'll work our way back to hiring and from the employer-employee status. But so, all right, I'm going to put you on the spot now. So you've worked HR in a huge school system in St. Louis, Missouri. You've also done so in the personnel area for the Air Force. Mm-hmm. And then the largest corporate employer, maybe along with Club Car in our area, is ADP. Do you have a rough idea about how many people you've had to have that difficult discussion with, and you've had to carefully let them go?
Yes. So we have a number on my website that is well over, we say 100,000, right?
Not you.
The impact to,
okay.
Right. And directly and indirectly. So if I touch this leader who is responsible for a team of 30, that's, a team of 30. And so certainly the number of managers and leaders that we've had to have an impact. And then of course, when we talk about the organizations, right, that support. But I do love when we say sometimes we have to cut the tie and cut loose, and because I'm a firm believer in determining whether things are a skill issue or a will issue. And if it's a will issue, we need to figure out how best to manage that particular employee to better and greater things.
Yeah, you don't have much latitude with attitude. I
like that one too. I have to take that one, Neil.
Yeah, you got to have the good attitude for sure. That seemed to be the hardest job for me as an employer. Not doing the work, producing the content, or doing the marketing, or promoting, or speaking, or anything. But the managing of people in those difficult decisions. Why do you think someone like myself or others have this fear of terminating someone's employment?
One is because we are conditioned to be non-adversarial. To be conflict adverse. Most individuals are not comfortable with conflict. So that's number one. We are conflict avoidant. And if we haven't spent the time with, like any other skill, managing conflict requires developing a skill. And I say often that conflict and difficult dialogue must be carefully orchestrated. And so we haven't invested in acquiring those skills, then it could be a challenge for us. And so you're not unique in that way, in that most leaders, especially frontline managers, are not comfortable engaging. And even there's a data to support that even HR professionals, a good percentage of HR professionals who you think are the gatekeepers, if you will, and they're not, because they share that role with senior leaders and managers. But there's a great percentage of leaders, and I've had roles with professional organizations where I was responsible for helping train and develop other HR, my peers. Is that there's a great percentage of those of us in HR who also need, there's opportunity for us to improve those skills as well.
Well, I know your company, Brownstone Mediation, can do that. But
Absolutely.
I was curious, should it be a surprise, should it be an abrupt termination, or do you think that employee who's sitting across the table from someone like yourself or an HR professional, do you think that person sort of knows?
Well, that's a both and answer for me, because there are offenses and behaviors that are zero tolerance, and I really don't like that word zero tolerance, but the reality is that there's some things that we just absolutely cannot do and support. And so we have to start with what are the expectations, and that's really guide through your policies and your manuals to help guide those expectations. And so you set yourself up as an owner, as a leader, as an organization when you have those policies and employee handbooks and things like that in place. And so I can't say it's always going to be black and white, but it helps manage those gray areas a little better. Sure. But yes, I would say we should always be progressively disciplined or progressively managing, and especially if you've identified that this candidate is not a great fit, is to managing them out of the organization, which allows them and puts the power back in and responsibility back to the employee to determine if they want to continue in the skill issue. Because as long as it's a skill issue, as the HR professional leader of the organization, I will own the responsibility of helping you meet the expectation. But once it becomes a will issue, you as the employee are completely in control of that.
It makes sense. And I'm now remembering, I worked for about a year and a half for Morris Communications when they had the Augusta Chronicle and newspapers around the country. And there was a challenging employee at the time, and they suggested a PIP. Have you ever heard of that?
Performance Improvement Plan?
Performance Improvement Plan. So I guess that has to do with the progressiveness of it.
Yes.
Does that also protect an employer legally?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when the employee, especially if there's employee contracts and employee agreements, especially if those things involved, they're not as common, especially for small business, and when we talk about employee contracts, but it allows from a unemployment standpoint, financially, from a litigated standpoint of, if a employee was to allege different types of things. And so performance improvement plan, you're setting the expectation, you're documenting, and you're having regularly and ongoing coaching and feedback. And so that's what that performance improvement plan is, that we've sat down from the beginning of this process to determine what the expectation is, where you as the employee are not meeting that expectation, and how I as an organization commit to partnering with you to meet that expectation. And then we have a clear understanding that if those expectations continue not to be met, here's what are the consequences, or here's the outcome. You can the expected outcome. And so it's a transparent, so having open and transparent communication, so there's no surprises from a legal standpoint, because that's really what legal issues are about, is that you didn't do something that you were supposed to do, or I said you did something that you don't agree that you did. So there's always that difference in what happened and what was expected to happen. And so that performance improvement plan really outlines what that expectation is and how we're both going to commit to meeting those expectations.
Well, we mentioned at the beginning we were going to start at the end. Sometimes a relationship gets terminated, but we're going to then come back to the beginning as an employer, what you should do to get things off on the right foot, to get started the right way. Some policies and procedures, but some other really interesting nuggets as soon as we come back, so please stick around.
You're listening to Work It Out with TeKay Brown Taylor from Brownstone Mediation Services. Family, business, your workplace. What is conflict costing you? Visit brownstonemediation.com to see how you can find a resolution and maybe even a reconciliation of a broken relationship. That's brownstonemediation.com.
So what's the best way, I suppose, to get started when you're looking to hire an A player? TeKay Brown Taylor is an HR expert with a few decades of experience in this field, and most of the job descriptions feel a little sterile to me. They seem kind of formulaic.
Especially from a small business standpoint.
Okay.
Because most small business owners, when they're hiring, are not experienced from an HR perspective or how to even develop job descriptions. And so their mindset is how to do the job from an operational standpoint. And so oftentimes what they're looking for is laser focused in the language is very operational as opposed to whole person, meaning the culture, meaning from a personal, the behavioral type concerns that as a hiring manager you should also be concerned with. And so the job descriptions are very sterile in that regard. I like that word, Neil, in that it's really focused on, which is important. It's important to have what the job is, but it's also important to really be keen on what type of individual do you believe as a hiring manager, an experienced professional in that line of work or industry that you're hiring for, also fits from a characteristic, personal standpoint.
I used to take these, I don't remember what it's called. Was it Briggs-Myers?
Myers-Briggs personality
It's been
test.
so long.
Yes.
Personality test.
It's a very popular.
And you have different quadrants
Yes.
of what you're like and who you could get along with or whatever. Do those work?
They do. They have a place. Let me say that.
Okay.
They have a place. There can be, and often, I won't say often, sometimes can be a challenge is that we put so much emphasis on those type of tests. And what I would encourage is that they should be used as a tool. Where do they fit in what you're trying to accomplish with your hiring process? And so what's important is to take it as another piece of data, another piece of information. Because at the end of the day, it's about really identifying what the person has, and is this someone you as a hiring manager can develop, can invest in, and especially from a small business standpoint, because they become a part of your business family, for lack of a better word, a business partner.
Right.
And so there are things that come into the organization. There's just things that they're not going to know. They're not a part of the business. And so to make them a great partner in moving in a line to helping you accomplish your business goals, there's things that you have to develop and help coach.
I'm not very scientific. I tend to trust my gut. But I'm sure there's other tools I can use. But do we need to listen to that person inside when we meet someone?
So I'm a firm believer in that the gut, it's giving you data, it's giving you information.
All right.
There is some research that says is that gut is what you know, it's what you're comfortable with.
Okay.
And so it can lead you astray. And so there is a fine line. But when you have tools in place, it will help validate and or not validate that strong feeling that you have. And so it's so important just to have tools that can see different angles of what you're trying to accomplish.
All right, so we got the job description and we try to match up the culture. We do some testing maybe. We're trusting our gut. How do we actually set somebody up for success like the first week or two that they're on the job?
That is so important. I was just at a meeting this morning and the question was asked, what type of challenges are you having? And one of the business owners said, staffing. I'm having trouble finding good people. And at some point, the facilitator of that meeting came back at the end because the conversation kind of detoured to marketing, but at the end, he didn't forget the challenge that she had, and he knew there was an HR professional in the room, so he punted it back to me and asked me, did I have any advice for her? And I shared onboarding.
Is that like shadowing?
Well, it can be. That's a piece of it.
Okay.
I do agree. Job shadowing can be an effective piece of the onboarding. But too often, we don't have great onboarding processes. And that is bringing on that candidate that you have now hired because you believe they are a great fit and the best candidate that you have pursued and or considered. And so onboarding allows you to help you be successful. So how do you set them up to be successful? And that culture is about, you've already identified that they're a great fit from all aspects. And now, how do we help them come into this organization, be aligned to not only their job and their role, but how are they also aligned to the business goals? How do they see how what they do fit into what the business itself does, and how everybody else's role, and especially if you're a small business, because the impact is so, the small things matter so much, right? How things play, it's like a puzzle. And so the policies, the expectations, taking time off, how is time managed? You know, who do you report to? All those different things. And so sometimes we get into bringing someone on, we do the job, and we learn and put things in place by experiencing issues. And what I am suggesting is have the processes, the practices, or spend the time and invest in developing those processes and policies and practices to help. And onboarding is very, very critical because it's a retention. That's how you retain people, because you don't want people to come that you've hired that are a great candidate, but they are coming with the mindset of it's a job. Onboarding is going to help you to lay that foundation so that they can better align with it's more than a job. Right?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And after we take a little break, we're gonna talk about how it's a candidate's world out there, and what you maybe can do as an employer to help in that realm. So please stick around with TeKay Brown Taylor of Brownstone Mediation.
You're listening to Work It Out with TeKay Brown Taylor from Brownstone Mediation Services. Family, business, your workplace. What is conflict costing you? Visit brownstonemediation.com to see how you can find a resolution and maybe even a reconciliation of a broken relationship. That's brownstonemediation.com.
Many employers in the CSRA are wearing a lot of hats along with employees. Chances are they may not have an HR department. Can they hire you part-time?
Absolutely. They have options.
They have options.
And we want to educate them on their options, whether it's outsourcing, whether it's just from an advisory standpoint, or whether it's just as a consulting, coming in and doing some fractional project work. Everything is a conversation. How do we best help you meet your needs?
Sure. And we mentioned that it's even tougher, I think, because employees, I don't know what it is with the numbers. There maybe aren't as many high quality employees out there. It's supply and demand. I don't know. But what can employers do? I mean, let's just start with a piece of paper. A lot of times when I was hiring, if I saw a red flag, oh, he was there for 8 months and there for a year and a half, and then he hopped over here, what have you. And I might have in my mind, even if I liked the person, I might have thought, how long am I going to stay with me? Should we tweak our mindset a little?
Absolutely. We're in a different age, a different place today. It is the candidates market, meaning candidates have options. We can equate some of that to COVID, but I think it was even changing before we even got COVID, to before COVID, in that employers used to be the one dictating how much you're going to get paid, where you're going to work from, what the job is going to look like. And now candidates are coming and saying, if you want me to come work for you, these are my requirements. And so it's more of a negotiation and around what employment will look like from a candidate standpoint, right? Just for the hiring piece, you're right. Yeah. And so, yes, that is a great point that you bring up. And I often have to advise clients in that when you look at a resume and you see someone that's hopped around, had 2 jobs in a year and a half, don't automatically put it in the no-go file.
Okay.
That should signal that there's a conversation if everything else looks well. And so I don't want to get into the generational talk, but today candidates are looking for different things. They're not just looking for salary or retirement or benefits. They're looking to see if what they believe in aligns with what your organization does and believe in. What are the company values?
Yeah.
They are looking to, remote is huge right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are you finding that that's not a deal breaker anymore, that there's some allowance of that, even if it's not every day, there's some concession?
Yes. Even in the military, we had some things where we were having to change how we were doing things, where people were this is what I will and can, and leaders were having to entertain those conversations and develop policy around how we are going to manage these requirements that members are now requesting. And so yes, and oftentimes it can be a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Organizations that were, and I would also even say that companies are also finding out that it's a benefit to them because they have less overhead with bringing employees in. And so everything's a conversation. It's a business decision that organizations are now having to make. But it certainly can be a decision, a deal breaker, in that you may think someone's coming because of the salary, or they may be coming because of the benefits. And oftentimes that's not the case. They want the total the whole package. And those are some of those intrinsic values.
Well, we see why they're choosing to work for company A or onboarding. Why do you think nowadays people are leaving?
Well, I wish I knew, and I don't believe it's one answer. I think it's I really do think it's a number of things. And some of the things we just talked about is just, where am I with my family? Where I am with my career? People, the context around where education is, and loans, and and pursuing additional degrees and different avenues. There's so much, I believe, that AI, how things are being more informed, and the pursuit of being entrepreneurs. There's just so much information and so many options to consider. And so it's a conversation.
Yeah.
It really is a conversation around why people or individuals are checking out of the employment market.
I used to look at surveys, and I know that money used to be somewhere up there, but I don't think it was first why somebody leaves. I mean, is it just the basic respect that you believe in this company, you like the boss, and you want to be there? Is it basic?
Money's not keeping people. So certainly we're talking in general. We're talking in general, and so there's never a broad stroke. But generally speaking, especially in 2024, money is not going to be the end all be all to retain and keep someone. They're looking to be, how are they going to be developed? How are they going to be promoted? Where's their next opportunity? Where can they work somewhere else? Can they relocate somewhere else? And so there's a saying, and it is true from my experience, having been in HR for the number of years that I've been in, people don't leave jobs, people leave people. I've seen people stay in jobs that weren't the best job from a financial standpoint and or from a benefit standpoint, but they stayed because they believed in that particular organization, and they believed in that organization because of the people. Mission, absolutely. Yeah. And I'd say if you take care of people, people will take care of the mission. They'll take care of the work.
Yeah. Nowadays, how do you advise HR recruiters to recruit? Where do you find the limited pool out there?
Yeah. Well, we know we live in social media age.
Sure.
You have to be digitally out there. But I also think that being able to showcase who you are, your values, because again, that goes back to the conversation we were having just a moment ago. People want to know, what do you stand for as an organization? Does it align who I am personally? We see the intersectionality, where the community in the workplace, in society, in politics, all these different things, they're intersecting into the workplace. They're crossing over into the workplace more often than what traditionally was acceptable, or even kind of well received, because we would usually tell you, check it at the door. And so you see these things entering into the workplace. And so, one, how you are showing up, how is your company represented? Because people are going to go find information about you. They're going to go do the work, generally speaking. And those particular potential candidates being able to assess if that is a company and or organization that speaks to who I am as a person. And then of course, all those other things follow. Do they offer benefits? Do they offer a comparable salary? Do they offer time off? Do they offer the remote work option? So all those different things really set an organization up to being marketable and or compared to other organizations, right? What competition is doing, or because this is a fight for talent right now. It truly is.
Well said. Fight for talent indeed. And again, TeKay Brown Taylor, decades of experience in HR and can help on a project or freelance basis. And I think this is going to be something that's going to be around for years, the fight for talent.
Yes.
And how you recruit and how you hire the best people so that your company can survive and thrive.
Survive and thrive.
Yeah,
yes.
That's the thing. Wonderful. Well, thank you again. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much, Neil. I really appreciate time with you today.
You've been listening to Work It Out with TeKay Brown Taylor from Brownstone Mediation Services. She's an HR powerhouse and certified mediator in the CSRA, specializing in conflict resolution with family, business, workplace issues, and small claims disputes. Remember, save time, save money. Don't rush to litigate, mediate. Visit brownstonemediation.com.